This episode of Super Pulp Science is brought to you by PAPERBEATSROCK.BigCartel.com for all your fan art needs, probably.
Attention, citizens. It's time for Super Pulp Science.
This is a Super Pulp Science where we talk about how genre is made. I'm here with Justin Curry and
Edreen Cielos,
who is going to share his secrets about how to quit everything and become an artist.
Oh, God.
Does that sound about right?
Yeah. I guess so.
Yeah?
That's not what you said before. You said we're just going to talk a little bit. Now it's all my secrets?
It's your secrets, yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah, we still don't know what we're doing, so we're hoping you have the answers.
Oh, definitely.
The trick for us.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
The trick for us is to get you to agree off the record to be on the podcast,
Right.
and when we're recording, steal your secrets.
That's exactly what happened, to be honest. So anyone going to be on the podcast in the future, that's what's happening. So
yeah, we're going to edit
Watch
that
out.
part out.
Oh,
so
cool.
No
Oh,
one
great.
will know.
Dan, can I see that file later, by the way?
So this is an interesting guest get for us because Justin asked you to be here.
He did.
And he was mostly because he's been looking over his shoulder at you on the last few
Whoa.
years at the shows and wondering like, as this guy's coming up, we better figure out what he's doing.
Oh, no.
Well, it's been super interesting to watch because, like, a year or two ago, when was your first convention? Like,
Very first one was going to be 3 years.
3
in
years
March.
ago? Okay.
It's in March, yeah.
okay, so yeah, almost 3 years ago. I remember like talking to you and seeing your setup, and then the last like year or two watching it like explode like up and out and up and out, and every
Yeah.
time I see you, like it keeps getting like bigger, and there's more stuff, and now there's like T-shirts and hats.
There is. I'm
and
wearing
stuff.
one of them. Sponsored. No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, it's been like super cool to just see like the quick evolution of a booth.
Okay, so then let's pause
Yeah.
and rewind. So you've been doing this for how many years?
Full time, going on 2 years.
Okay, so let's rewind back 3 years. Where were you? What were you doing? What was happening in your head?
I was supposed to be a nurse, so that's the main thing, and I was on the wait list for Red River actually, and so I had a year off before I was getting in because they changed some requirements. So I was supposed to get in that year, but instead I got on the wait list. So I didn't want to waste my time, so I found this program that would kind of fill the void, and I was starting to draw again. I used to draw a lot as a kid, but I stopped, and I went to MITT, or it's now known as MITT, previously known as Winnipeg Technical College for production art program. And you learn, like, I thought it was going to be more drawing and design, but really we learned more about printing and the whole printing process and all how to use the machinery, which was really interesting. But I did learn a little bit of graphic design. So there was the assignment that kind of led me to do conventions in a sense was we were going to make notepads, and we could design or draw whatever we wanted. So I did fan art, fun stuff that I enjoyed, obviously, and I used Adobe Illustrator. That was like one of the first times I ever illustrated in it or really did anything in it. And a friend of Justin's, as I found out later on, he kind of showed off Justin's work and your guys' first book, Cassie and Tonk. And I thought it was like my mind was blown from like the work in it. And I was like, you can do this in Illustrator. This is amazing. And I was just like, this is so different from like the Photoshop work and you see it all the time. So it really inspired me. And so when I made the notepads, I was like, man, I could sell these, kind of thing. This is a thing that I think people would buy, and why not? So I kind of just scoured the internet to see if there's any like cons within Winnipeg. I've never been to a con, but I've always been like a nerd, and I've always known about the culture to a certain degree, but I've never been to a convention. I didn't even know if Winnipeg had any of the conventions. So I did, and I found this really small one. It's now known as the Manitoba Comic Con, but at the time, it was called something else. I think
Like
it was
the Toy and
year.
Comic Expo?
Yeah.
Is it that
Sure,
one?
yeah.
Yeah, the
Something
small-
like that, yeah. So it was very small, and I didn't know at the time, but to me, it was like the biggest thing, of course. And so thankfully, my teacher was very kind enough to let me print and like kind of get ready for the convention.
So you had some access to some materials through the school.
Yeah,
That's
it was
huge.
it was
Yeah,
it was
that's
huge. Yeah, exactly. Like I made my notepads there. I made like I don't know. I was like so excited, so I made so many things, and I was like, I can't just do notepads. That's not the only thing I can do. I gotta make prints or something else, right? So I did that. Then I found out people kind of do like buttons and stuff like that, some smaller stuff for like a smaller market for kids who only have a couple bucks. So I was like, yeah, let's do that as well, and just like invested some money at the time. And all I was doing at the time was I was just working as a cashier at Extra Foods that doesn't exist anymore. They're called No Frills now, but that's
Shout out to No Frills.
Shout out to No Frills. Shout out to Extra Foods, who turned into No Frills, and I got some money from that, which helped out with everything that is now, for sure. But yeah, and then as I was telling off the podcast right before, that first convention is the first time I ever met Justin and Greg.
Were we
and
nice?
Yeah, you almost knocked over my display.
Oh, really?
I remember
Justin.
I remember you joking about it, and then the day after you accidentally did, because you're right beside me, and I was.
Was
kinda,
this at like the Viscount Gort?
It was.
Yes. Okay,
Yes.
I remember.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was the very first time, and I remember like flipping out like crazy because I didn't think that I would meet you guys. You know, like it wasn't.
Well, I thought you meant like flipping out like angry. Like you
Oh no
kicked
no
over
no
his
no no
display.
no! Yeah, oh my God, this guy
Came on the
he's
show for
so
revenge.
big, so much better than. No, but I was just kind of freaking out because I didn't expect to meet you guys. You know, like I just saw your work through Dan, and Justin's friend I mentioned earlier, and yeah, and I didn't think like I did at first. I think I knew that you guys were from Winnipeg, but it was more like, whoa, this is like amazing stuff. I'm never gonna meet them right away. But my very first convention, yeah.
See, and now you know you've done a few years, and you know, I think in your heart that nobody is really a big deal, right?
I guess so. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
That we're all just making stuff,
yeah.
and showing up at
definitely.
shows, and doing our
our
best
thing.
to just do our thing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Sure.
for example, I
I'm
don't
not
know
freaking out right now either. You know.
but in Vancouver the other weekend,
Yes.
the row behind you, about halfway down, there was a very tiny table. The guy had like 4 prints, and they were really, really nice prints. He had this like half poster, like Nausicaa, that was like beautiful,
Oh, cool.
and like 3 other things. He is like the lead animation director at a Disney TV show in Vancouver right now. So like,
Whoa.
you know, like Disney employee.
Yeah.
But like at a convention, he looks like a small fry.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Just like, you know, it's not his full-time thing. He was just there for fun, but it's just kind of funny. Like it was like a hidden, like you're a superstar,
Yeah, hidden gem.
but you just, you know, just here, small setup,
Just chilling out, you know,
chilling out,
whatever. Just looking at.
super awesome guy. Was great to talk to, but
That's
yeah.
super cool.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So what is your okay? So
Yeah.
since we're on this track, what has been now? You've been a few years at shows.
Mm-hmm.
Has that relationship with quote unquote fame actually changed? Right? Like you realize now that people got to haul their boxes in like everyone else.
I guess so, to a certain degree. Yeah, you kind of see like everyone is more or less the same, especially in the beginning. Everyone starts off with the same table, right? Either whether it's 1 or 2, it starts off just as a blank canvas for you to kind of fill. And yeah, it's super interesting because like Justin was mentioning, there's like some people that just have a couple prints and they're super amazing prints. And I've been privileged enough to be beside some of those people or around those people and being able to talk to people, which is one of my favorite, if not favorite thing about conventions, is just interacting with all the other creatives. Because I don't know about you guys, probably you guys do interact a lot more with creatives since you guys have been in the field for a while.
That's my favorite part. Yeah.
Yeah, but for me, most of my friends aren't. You know, they're all like very successful in their own regard. I'm very proud of them, but they're all, you know, like dentists and doctors and whatnot, and all of that stuff. But I can't talk to them about the creative process or anything about it, or even just like a business aspect, which I also enjoy very much about this whole convention ordeal, you know. And
Yeah, you have to wear a couple of hats. You have to be an artist and a
Definitely.
businessman and
yeah,
logistics and all that.
yes.
So do
there's
you
so
feel like
much.
you found your people at the shows?
Yeah, to a certain degree, definitely. Like it does fill a void that was not filled before, and it's a lot of fun because it's just such a different dynamic. Like I love my friends and everything, and they also fill a different void in a different creative aspect to certain degrees as well. But this is like another one that just doesn't get filled very often unless I go to all these conventions. And like to it kind of sounds like I'm bragging, I'm about to say, but I'm not. But like as I've gotten a little bit bigger, I don't have as much time to interact with some of the like my neighbors and stuff, and that kind of sucks, to be honest. Like it's a little bittersweet, and I wish I did, and I still try to, of course. But that's the reason why I do like smaller shows a lot of the times, because you do get to talk.
Because you're too busy, is basically.
Yeah, in a sense, yeah.
You don't have to apologize for an accomplishment. That's okay.
But still, I feel like, I don't know. It's just, that's how I am.
So you miss that aspect
to a certain degree. I mean, it's still there, and I still go out to get that every time as much as possible, because I learned so much. I feel like I still learn, and I hope I do, from every person from every regard, like the ones that are starting off and they look at my table and like, oh my God, you have so much. I didn't start this way, and no one does, and I look at their stuff, I'm like, your stuff is great. Like, it really is. And this is like, your first couple conventions? This is amazing. Like, keep it up. And I love that, because it reminds me of where I was a few years ago.
Attention, citizens.
Every convention, I'm terrified. Every convention, I'm terrified that I'm not going to make my money back, and I'm not going to make a profit, and that people are just not going to like my stuff, going to go like, ew, what's that? Knock off Justin? No, I'm just kidding. No, but, I'm so scared, and I never want to lose that feeling at the same time, just because that feeling makes me want to keep improving, and I really never want to lose that feeling. And that goes not just from the drawing aspect of creating, but also, like you guys mentioned earlier, the like how my table has grown. I try to make it better every time at the very least, or just try to figure out new ways. That's why I'm always looking at all the other tables, because even the small tables have like great ideas that some people just don't notice and just get overlooked. But I feel like I'm talking a lot.
So I have a question for both of you then, right? This is, you can go, Justin can go in the Wayback Machine. But is there a moment where you had an interaction where you felt like you learned, like, is there a top moment where you had this interaction with someone beside you at a show early on that you said, whoa, now I know what to do. Now I know how it's going to work?
In one aspect, definitely. I don't know if you want to go, Justin. I've been talking a lot. You want to go first?
Go for it. You're our guest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure? Yeah.
I wanted to throw in there.
Yes.
I still get scared at like the start of every convention that like this is it, the bubbles pop, like nobody wants my work anymore.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna sell a thing. This is the end, and this usually lasts like a couple hours into like the Friday or Thursday, and then I start making a couple of sales. I'm like, no, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But it's still,
It's comforting to know that. You're not scared.
So how do you face
The
that fear?
fear.
Okay, we'll come back to that first question, because you guys are chasing the fear here. How do you...
Should we change your name to Chasing Fear?
Right? Yeah, running toward. But you're running toward it, right?
I definitely am.
Right? That's the definition of bravery, right?
you
Feeling fear, but going forward anyway.
I guess so. So I guess I'm brave. That's, yeah.
But how do you do it? Like, you're feeling that you're scared. Why do you go? Why do you put yourself through that?
Because that's where you grow the most. At least that's what I find. Like even now, whether I show it or not, I'm a little nervous for sure, just because there's some juggernauts I feel around me.
Come on, no.
Yes, no,
This is
definitely.
Dan guy. He's so intimidating.
No, definitely. And Dan's just staring right at me. Oh my God.
he runs his own convention.
Yeah, he hasn't smiled at all yet, and people can't see this, right?
Yeah.
So, no, but it's like. Even now, I try to put myself more and more into situations where I feel uncomfortable to a certain degree. I think everyone says they want to do that or try to do that. But since I started doing conventions, I think that was the first leap into really doing it, because to fit the stereotype as a kid, my parents were always like, yeah, you got to go into medicine. You got to be a doctor. I'm Asian, by the way, so it does like that's that stereotype, and it holds true very much. And but I kind of just didn't want to, or I didn't even realize that I wanted to go a different path, to be honest, until I was already there. And since then, I've kind of been chasing that fear. I'm going to change my name to Chasing Fear now.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay, so I happen to know that Justin faced some early roadblocks where people told him, illustration is not a thing. Don't bother. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like you also had that. I know I definitely had that growing up, and it was from a place of love. Do you feel like our parents just didn't know better?
They didn't. That's for sure. Because at least for me, I can speak on like an immigrant parent, right? They come from, I'm Filipino, so they came from the Philippines, and all they really know is like the main jobs and the jobs that they feel or know are secure, and that's just how it is and what they know and what they've grown to know. And for the most part, it is very, very true, right? But the thing is, especially with this day and age, with like internet and everything, it opens so many more doors. There's also a lot more competition, quote unquote competition, but it's also, there's so much space out there for everyone to live, you know, and be able to do their own thing. Like, I realize that more and more, that there's a spot for everybody. The more I've done shows and the more I've seen other people's stuff, and
the variety of stuff you see out there too.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's insane. It's amazing. And you can kind of see that some people stem from the same root, but it's still like they're trying to figure out where they're going, and they do. And then it's just like my early stuff for sure is like legit trying to just copy Justin. Like it was just like, this is the way to do it. And I'm gonna steal this little thing and that little thing and try to make it my own. And I've kind of, at least I hope, I've gradually separated myself from Justin to a certain degree. I hope.
Well, I think we all do that, right? You know, like
for sure.
I had the very good fortune of spending a little bit of time in St. Petersburg, and I got to sit in the Hermitage and sit in the Matisse collection, and I sit there drawing all of these famous paintings.
Wow.
Right? And I'm essentially doing the same thing, trying to echo things that I admire in Rembrandt paintings and in all of these sculptures and in all of this stuff, and then trying to take that back, right? What I think we're in this wonderful age, though, where you can have that same experience with contemporaries. You know, like you can go to a show.
Definitely.
You can see someone be like, wow, I really like Justin's work. Then you can take it apart, figure out how it works. I like that you did that. And then realize that your own voice is going to speak louder using those same materials.
Yeah, for sure. Like I've found that like Justin was definitely a main influence early on. But even stuff like yours, Greg, like I think your stuff is so dynamic and different that I follow a lot of different forms of art or different types of art just because I know I can take bits of it from each of them, you know, even if it's just like how a single stroke is kind of done. That sounds very pretentious, but
no, it's true though.
But yeah, just any small bit that I can kind of take and maybe just figure out what I like about something is kind of, I've kind of realized more and more that I've done the art stuff that throughout my entire life, I've kind of wanted to find out why I like something. Whether it came to like movies or TV shows or games, whatever, just kind of critiquing and breaking apart, even in my own regard, and like debating and talking about it with friends. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't want to debate and talk back, or probably get annoyed to a certain degree. But because of that, like I've kind of translated that into the art that I've done, and I try to follow. And I used to kind of follow stuff like, oh, I like that because it looks cool, and I would just follow that. But now,
try to break it down. What do I like about that? Yeah.
That, and I also follow other people that I'm like, oh, that's interesting. It's not exactly my art style or anything I really want to go exactly that for, but I know there are things there that will inspire me to a certain degree somewhere or something. That's what my Instagram was like first created, was literally just art. And now it's art and memes, but you know.
It's an evolution.
Yeah.
Like I know starting out, Scotty Young and Cheeks Galloway.
Yes.
I tried to draw like those guys nonstop. And before that, it was Michael Turner. But yeah, same thing. Like I would try to emulate those guys, and then it just got to a point where I think I kind of figured out what it was I liked about them. And so I moved on. I still love those guys' style, but you move on to then the Creature Box guys for like a while. Yep. It's like, try to be like the Creature Box guys, and then you just kind of. It's that saying, you are the sum of your 10 best friends or whatever. You know?
The average. Well, yeah, the way I think of it is you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Right.
Right.
So your art is like the average of the 100 artists that kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. Which is why I think it's really important. Like we keep adding to our art book collection here. Mm-hmm. It's really important to, as you said, strive to add new things to the list. Right? New definitely. Influences to the list, stuff that is very outside.
Conventions, like actually meeting these people, not just getting the art books, but like seeing the person behind it kind of, I think, gives us almost like an unfair advantage too.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. I remember the first time I met Justin, I was like this, I gotta pick his brain. Like I gotta ask him about anything and everything and figure out like, how does he do this and that, like these different techniques. Because I also work in Illustrator exclusively for the most part, and that's contradictory exclusively for the most part. But yeah, so I asked them anything, and I remember even talking to Greg, just like, how do you do your stuff? And I remember you talking, it's like a mix of digital and traditional stuff, and how you kind of just go about whatever you feel, and it's just back and forth. And I just, like, all of that kind of just blew my mind. And I think whether I used it right away or not, I know that I have used it since then somewhere along the lines. And it's such an important thing, something that it's just priceless, that kind of information that you get from conventions. So people who are at conventions, they're only there to try to make money. I'm like, you're missing out on so much more that will help you eventually, be able to pay the bucks and pay the bills and all that stuff. Pay the bucks, that was making sense. But pay the bills and all that good stuff. And you take advantage of that opportunity, as Justin was saying. We're like, it's kind of unfair that we get to do this and just meet all these incredible people.
What I'm really appreciating about you is that you are seeing a personal journey tied up in with your art. And Justin and I talk about this. There's a lot of people who show up at shows just to cash in.
Oh yeah.
And it's hard and then they get really angry if they're not doing well.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they didn't show up with any other way to grow except their wallet. And then if it happens to be a slower show, like the slow shows become the great community builders.
We get so many things figured out and meet so many people during, some of my worst shows had the best results, if that makes sense.
If we hadn't had that one slow show where we figured out the butterfly collector, there'd be no Minus Institute.
Wow.
Right? Like we had, where we just figured out, you and I were just jamming, like, let's figure out a way to do a quick story where you and I could each put in a day or two and finish. Right? And then we banded together like what that story could be. And then the seed of that peeled out into this whole other thing for me. So it's like you say, if you look at it as who's around me, okay, well, if there's no one here, right? Who's interested in this work? Who's around me? Who's interested in making work?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I remember you guys talking about, again, bringing it back to the first time I ever met you guys, how I was like, how did you guys even meet? This is Casting Talk was your first book and everything. And you guys were just like, I think I was talking to Greg, and Greg was like, yeah, we just, we met like conventions and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, this is where it is, And that was the very first convention. And it really opened my eyes, and it was a really small convention. That first convention was, I don't know, maybe
it was the second floor of the Viscount, right?
One room for all the artists. I also met Nico there for the first time.
Yeah.
So
I believe that was where Nico decided he didn't want to do small shows anymore.
That's right. Yeah,
remember that conversation?
Yeah, he drew a line in the sand. Well, and everyone has their different reason for being there, right?
Yeah,
and
definitely.
So I think that's an interesting, and if we're gonna, dear listeners, just put a little caveat around this. Comic conventions as they are today are a new, very interesting animal. Roll back even 5 years, they were just tiny little shows inside of the basements of hotels, and now they routinely book out entire convention, like the New York Convention Center, the whole thing booked out.
160,000 people. It's tied. It's neck and neck with San Diego for biggest show now.
Jeez.
Super Popes.
When I started doing conventions, I just started with the local one. And then I eventually decided Calgary's easy to get to, so I'm going to try the Calgary convention. And from there, I did well enough that I could try a flight to Toronto. And I slowly started sprawling out into the 20-city tour that it now is. For you, what was that like going from, when did you decide local convention isn't enough, I'm going to start traveling? Because it seemed like you were suddenly everywhere.
Yeah, a little bit. I tried to be, at least. The first year, I was a student, and then I also got a graphic design job at the school, thankfully, which was really great. So I had a little extra cash as well. And then at the same time, I was doing conventions, and I was also still had my side real job as a cashier at Extra Foods, of course.
No frills.
No frills now, back in the day, guys. No, but I that first time, I remember asking Justin that time, I was like, when did you, I think the second show I ever talked to you at was Saskatoon that same year.
Right.
I think that might have been Saskatoon's first year, and I asked Justin. I remember asking Justin, like, just not to put you on the spot. I was like, Justin, do you remember me? I'm like, hey, do you remember me? And like, sorry, man, I see so many people. I'm too big for
did
you.
I do?
No,
no. I feel so bad.
No, it was fine because.
Are you getting that yet? Have you burnt out that part of your brain that recognizes people yet?
Sometimes.
Yeah,
and I feel real bad.
Happens.
Yeah, I feel real bad. But I'm just like, hey, just keep coming back. I know your face. If I don't remember your name, just let me know again.
Faces and stories. That's where I'm strong.
Yes.
But names, I'm terrible. So
I'm like,
someone will come up and they'll be talking to me, and I'll say to them, "Oh, it's good to see you again. Oh, how's your mom doing? You know, how's your kid? You know, are you still working on that thing?" They're like, "Oh, I can't believe you remember that. Oh, it's so great." And then someone else comes up, and I cannot introduce them because I remember everything but their name.
Hey, this is.
I'm the worst. So.
No, definitely. I think like people who stand in my mind are like people I've had good conversations with in continuous conversations, but I still forget their names. Yeah. So that's the thing. But yeah, as I was saying with Justin, I asked him about all the shows that he did and like where did he start? I was like, when did you start going to other shows? And you kind of gave me a little bit of a time frame as well. Like I said, listeners, you know, if you want to learn, just talk and ask questions to like everybody, anyone that you even remotely admire to a certain degree or think you can learn anything from, just ask questions. And I was that student in school that was terrified of talking at all, you know, just like even raising my hand was the worst thing ever. And I put myself out of that comfort zone because I really realized this was more or less something I think I want to do. And just thinking that I wanted to do it was enough for me to be like, hey, maybe I should try and do it and see where it leads me. But as I was saying, getting back to Justin's question, I used the Winnipeg Comic-Con C4 as an indicator whether or not I would start flying out to shows. That was my indicator because I was like, this is the biggest show that I am going to. And I did maybe like 7 shows that first year, all relatively small shows, maybe one day. A lot of them were like one-day shows and stuff that were tiny within Winnipeg. Everything was within driving distance. The furthest I went was Saskatoon, which was about 7 or like 9-hour drive. But Winnipeg was the indicator, and I was like, okay, if I make enough here to kind of at least and then I calculated a flight to wherever, Toronto or Calgary, whatever, and then the table cost and if I broke even, I'm gonna consider that like good. I'm gonna be okay with that. I have some money saved up. I was still graphic designing, although I quit that job. That's another story for another day. But yeah, that was kind of the indicator. So when C4 happened, my first C4, it went really well. And another defining moment was, I'm not sure if you remember this, Justin. I keep going back to Justin. You're not that big of a deal. No, but I remember this is my third interaction with Justin, and it was a very defining moment for me because you came up to my table during setup, and I guess you remember me from Saskatoon. And you looked at my stuff and you're like, you've been doing a lot of work. And I was like, yeah, I'll try. Because that first year, and even now I still every show I try to make a new print. At the very least, I still try to push out a couple, like I was literally up last night till 3 in the morning. I just finished another print because I'm leaving for Calgary a little early tomorrow.
Yeah, 1 a.m. I was working on stuff too, I bet.
Yeah.
Justin's shaking affirmative. We were all up.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
And that's how you got to do. You got to stay up and keep working at it. And but yeah, so I keep pushing myself to that. But back to the story where Justin said that, and I was like trying to play cool. Obviously, I was like, oh yeah, thanks.
That was the Pokemon Airbender, Firebender, Waterbender piece, right?
That was one of my first.
I remember
prints
that piece.
ever.
Yeah.
That was actually one of my first prints. That was at the very first show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then I made a decent amount since C4. So it was like in March till October, end of October, and and then so Justin came by and I was like, oh my God, you know, he recognized me at the very least, or like noticed, and then the show came and went, and it was great. And he also, and then what kind of even reconfirmed everything to a certain degree was Justin brought Drake over, and Drake, Quirkalicious, another amazing artist that also does the convention scene and everything. And he told Drake came over, and I was like, I recognize his stuff. I've never met him or anything, but I've seen him at the few cons that I've done at the time. and he was like, "Oh, Justin told me to come over because he said you have some great stuff," and I was like, "Cool."
Okay, well, if, I don't want a whole podcast saying nice things about Justin, but I'm going to say some nice things about Justin too. One thing that I always appreciated about him, even when we didn't know him, he would be walking around the show, right? He'd take a break from his table and he'd go walking around the show and take a look at everybody's work in earnest, like really look at it. And people who had been working hard, he'd say so. Like it doesn't cost anything to be nice to people and to be encouraging, but it's one thing I've always admired about him is his ability to look at someone who is, doing their best. Yeah, and
definitely.
To see their best and to tell
just
them
on the lookout for competition. See who I need to bring onto the podcast and crush eventually.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's something we've talked about a lot is when we see the same people time after time again and their setup hasn't changed, they quickly fall off the radar.
Yeah, stagnation. Yes, you just keep moving.
But people who every time we see are up to something, have a bunch of new stuff, like those are the people that tend to go places and leave an impact. And
not only that, you see, like there are plenty of artists that you see around, whether it be the internet or the galleries or the comic shows or, inside New Comic Book Day, where you can watch when they have plateaued. You can see the moment where they are no longer trying to innovate and they've just figured out their method and now they're just going to do that forever. And I quickly lose interest in those artists, just as myself personally. The ones that really excite me are the ones where something new. Oh, I've never seen anything like this. This guy doesn't do this normally. This girl doesn't normally do this. They're reaching.
Yeah,
they're reaching for something else. And that's when I get excited because it's like, you started it with the right words. Outside of your comfort zone is where growth can happen.
Yeah,
right?
definitely. I personally try to keep doing new stuff because I get bored of my own work sometimes, just doing kind of the same thing. So from that alone, it's just me. I'm kind of tired of this style, so I'll do something completely different. I'll do.
I've noticed lately. I think when you started out, you were, I guess, less. Now I've noticed, before it was mostly like one, two characters, and now you've gotten to the style of the huge group shot, right?
Yeah.
Is that like fairly new?
Yeah. The one character stuff was literally to be like, I gotta make a lot of stuff because people need to see a lot for them to be kind of interested. I kind of figured that out throughout the cons is that, you have to have work to show. And even if it's not always your complete best, there's that saying finish is better than perfect. I think I heard this on the podcast actually as well.
Sam Biko.
Yeah, I'm like,
Sam Biko.
She's our new spirit animal here on the podcast.
It's so true, and it's and so I just try to push out as much as possible at the time. And then when I kind of gained enough stuff, I want to transition to more complicated stuff or just more going on. And I was also just kind of getting bored of just doing the one character stuff. And another artist, Kasich or Chris, I think.
Chris,
yes. He was another big inspiration for those kind of pieces that I've been doing recently. So it's because I've kind of been bored to a certain degree, and so I'm trying to find new ways of doing different things.
Staying interested in the work itself.
Yeah, definitely.
Have you had a chance to meet Chris yet?
No.
He's good buddies. We should, He
well,
doesn't do
I'd
very
love
many
cool.
Canadian shows though.
Right.
Next time he's in Canada, we'll sit him down. Yeah.
Chris is another great example of kind of this whole thing. He's fairly new to the scene. I want to say 2-3 years kind of thing.
And he operates under what name though?
Kasich.
Kishak.
I think I feel Kehasuk.
There you go.
I believe.
He used to be. He started off doing kind of Minion fan art kind of stuff, and started going to conventions and started meeting people and asking questions. And he's very much like a analyze, write down, extrapolate, figure out what works for him. So it was really impressive to see he scrapped all the Minion stuff and completely switched gears. And within a year, he'd gone from, this tiny one table, nobody really, we kept seeing this Chris guy, but wasn't really on anybody's radar. Then suddenly, his work portfolio doubled, tripled, and he was doing shows every other weekend, and he's just he exploded. He just kind of,
from my perspective, sort of went into hibernation, disappeared for a bit, made a whole bunch of new work, and then came back on the scene with a whole new portfolio.
Super impressive, and he's doing really well.
Okay, so let me
somebody
ask
to
you a
look out
question,
for.
Science.
A lot of people who are listening to this podcast, from feedback that I've been getting, are people who are nervous of taking a step towards a more creative lifestyle. Here you had a job lined up. You're going to be a nurse, right?
Yeah.
You had the training. You
I haven't
clearly have
trained
the
yet.
work ethic.
I was going to school.
Right? You're going to school, but you've got the work ethic. That is clearly not in debate. And yet, here you are, making art full time.
I am, somehow.
So what advice would you give to those people who are wondering? Should they just go all in?
No, it's hard to say that. It's very hard to say that. Like I mentioned earlier, I was working a graphic design job, and I was also working as a cashier, and I was doing the convention thing. Not to brag, no, I was kidding. Yeah. But I was doing all that stuff to kind of supplement that. Yeah. And you kind of do have to take baby steps and just calculated risk to a certain degree. To bring it back earlier, Justin asking how I kind of when did I decide to expand even more and more? Like I mentioned earlier, I used one of the conventions as an indicator to kind of see if I could do it a little bit, like at least break even. And then if I had to work a side job on the side, then sure, why not? Because this is, at least for now, is what I want to do, or at least what I think I want to do. And it's the thing that's giving me the most joy. But it's
why
very
didn't
hard.
you do what your parents told you? I have to ask this. As a parent, I have to ask, why didn't you do what your parents suggested?
I was going to. That's the thing. I told my mom. I remember telling my mom that I was like, Mom, initially I was gonna start a print shop. Because the program I took was all about printing. So I was like, I'm gonna do a print shop. I wasn't thinking about conventions at all, but I was like, I don't think I want to do nursing anymore. I was only doing nursing because I didn't know what else I wanted to do, and because I really needed to show, at least for myself and to my mom. I think it was more for myself, to be honest, but I wanted to show that I had a work ethic that could fulfill like my goals or whatever goals I wanted, and it was just more important. Really, that's kind of the only thing, and I had to prove that. It was.
Now, were you trying to prove that to yourself or to your parents?
Both.
Yeah.
To a lot. It very much. I probably started off a lot with my parents, if anything, because it's harder for them to get on board than myself, probably. Right. But actually, no, that's not true. It was kind of hard for me to really realize if this was what I wanted or if I should be doing this. And my mentality was like, oh, if it doesn't work out, then I will go back to nursing or something. And I think, do it while you're young, as young as you can, because...
Oh, it's too late for me then.
Oh, definitely. No, Greg, no. You gotta go.
It's all washed up.
No, do it as early as possible.
Back. Oh, my knees.
All I'm saying is just do it as early as possible. Whenever you realize that that's what you want, and if you put the work ethic in, like, things will follow. If you keep working, things will follow. Like, the money should not be the only goal. I know it's important to pay the bills and be able to live and support your family and all that stuff, and it really is, and it's tough. Yeah, but like you gotta, like, the money will follow as long as you put your work into it. And like you guys mentioned earlier on the earlier podcasts, the first couple, that you people don't realize how much work we all put into our stuff. Like, we just mentioned that we're all up till 1, 2, 3 in the morning working on stuff, and that's something we don't have to do. There's no boss telling us to be like, hey, you got to finish this by this deadline. Sometimes when you're doing client work and stuff, of course, but a lot of times, like you guys creating your own books, that's your own thing. Me or any of us creating prints for conventions, that's our own thing, and that's stuff that we put on ourselves just to better ourselves and to hopefully forward ourselves, not just financially possibly, but also creatively, more importantly, personally. Right. But yeah.
Wow. He just summed up the theme of my entire life right there. I love it.
Greg, I've known you.
Yeah. We've known you. I've
known you.
I've been watching. Okay, so this is exciting actually for me to watch somebody or to see somebody. So you're 25.
I am, yeah.
Justin is 30. One now. Oh, man. I'm 40. I'll be 41 in December.
Let me just say that for sure.
What's that?
No, I would have never guessed you were 40.
Oh, well, thank you for
You're
saying
welcome.
that. It's clean living. Plenty
Justin,
of Earl
you
Grey
look around
tea.
35, yeah.
Yeah.
Damn it.
But the reason I put our ages in those, because we're all at different stages in our lives
Yeah.
decided, okay, I'm going to do this full time. Right? And you were much younger. And I
Yeah.
think that, now this is just me being an armchair psychologist now. I think that the convention circuit, the convention scene, the internet, the video game world, the world of comics has become, for better or worse, it's mainstream now.
Oh, yeah.
But now that it's out there, you can see it as a job in a way that in my generation, it was not a viable job. You couldn't see it. There was no one to look at and say, I want to do that. I want to go and meet that guy. I want to ask him or her what they do and how they do it. And here you now, I think, are proof of a change, a little bit of a paradigm shift in the world of art as a career.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And I love it.
Yeah, I think I personally know that if it wasn't for the internet and seeing all that, I wouldn't have like the balls to take that leap, really. Right. And seeing and meeting people and then realizing more and more that at first it was kind of admiration looking at people's stuff, artists that I admire, just like, oh my God, because I always say there's two ways to kind of go about looking at artists that you admire. There's either the, oh my God, it's so amazing, I could never be like that, or the, oh my God, that's so amazing, how can I be like that?
Yeah.
And I took it the other way, and I hope everyone does. I really do, because you can, and it more and more, the more I've done conventions, the more I've met amazing artists and other people, I realize more and more that just everything is, I don't really have that incredible admiration as I did before, but it's more like I can do that, but in my own way, and figuring out. And thankfully, I feel like I've found more and more my voice, which has made things way easier than it used to be. Trying to make prints and just trying to figure things out. Earlier it was just like, oh God, how do I even
shotgun until stuff starts clicking?
Yeah, just do everything.
Just do everything
and submit often. Like people who are wanting to get into publishing. We had someone. We just did a signing at Chapters. 2 days ago? How long?
Yeah, behind closed doors.
Behind closed doors, we did that. And while we were setting up, a woman and her daughter came up to us and asked us. My daughter's a writer and she wants to know how she can get her books published. And I turned to her real quickly and said, okay, tell me what your book is about in one sentence. And, she figured out a way to answer it. And then I said, and how many rejections have you gotten for this manuscript? And she's like, oh, 1 or 2. I was like, okay, so once you've had 100 in the next 30 days, then you'll know how to sell your book. Yeah. And they thought that was hyperbole. Right. And it's the same I see with, for every print we see on the wall here, right, that Justin or I have made, there's 10 or 20 that no one ever gets to see, right? The wreckage of our failed attempts along the way.
Definitely.
And I think that people get caught up in this notion that the finished work is where everyone started. And
they see the tip of the iceberg and don't realize,
right?
Yeah, 85% happened.
Yeah, but now because of all these shows, we have the mechanics of how that stuff is made laid bare. The editors are there, the colors are there, the letters are there, the line art guys are all there. Everyone, and they're all swapping stories about how to do it faster, better, cheaper, more expensive.
Everything's exposed. The mystery, the fog is cleared. Whereas before, it just seemed overwhelming. Yeah. And now you can kind of, okay, I get it now. I see the pipeline.
Yeah, like 12-year-old me would look at a Brahm painting and just not understand even where a person would start.
Yeah.
And now I know you start with color theory. It's not as esoteric as it once was. But do you think that it means for us gentlemen that the magic will wear off?
Yeah.
Magic is just going to get crazier.
Done. We're done, guys.
We're done.
We should just stop now. We should just switch to only podcasts and we'll just talk about other things. No.
I like this. A podcast-only existence.
Yeah.
Dan, are you in? One every day for the rest of our lives?
One every day.
Super Pope.
I think the evolution has sped up. The evolution of artwork and style and what what is selling and what is mainstream. It's all fast tracking and changing quicker now. You know, we can't all draw the Marvel way. You know, there's too many other cool things happening.
Yeah, and if you spend even a half hour on Tumblr, right? Clicking through comic art. Like it used to be that if you searched anything related to comic art, you got the big two, right? You got DC or Marvel things. And now you get, you know, I don't know how many.
Image,
I saw some stat somewhere that every day 100 new webcomics are uploaded. Oh my God. Right? Like, I mean, started. Like, I don't mean like
have been around. Yeah.
Have been like that doesn't count the thousands that are already out there uploading new pages every day. Like just the level of work and narrative out there.
We're going to come out on top when we do that webcomic.
That's right. Yeah.
Whoa.
Webcomic time.
We have it all planned out.
So what have you got in your future? We've been talking about your past. Tell me what you seem like a man who plans. So tell me your long-term plan.
I do not. I like to a little mix of like planning and a little spontaneous stuff for the most part. But right now it's original stuff, completely original, and kind of leading into more like apparel and stuff, which is like I just released some shirt designs, all original stuff, and some other, and like some hats and whatnot. Just in Vancouver, so this last weekend or Comic-Con, when C4 was the first time I dropped all that stuff. And
how'd that go for
it? It was pretty good, to be honest. Like I also stream on Twitch whenever I can, and I've gained, I want to say like a following, but there's a few people who always come back, which is great, and they're super excited about all that stuff, and some of them have pre-ordered the shirts and all that, so that's super great. And there's something different about, you know, original stuff, and that being sold, and it's just like some other feeling completely. And bringing it way back to earlier in the podcast, you're asking about if there's ever a person that I've met or something that really established something that I wanted to go for now. And there was one for sure. I was neighbor to this artist at Fan Expo Canada last year, not this September, but last September. And she had like a very humble setup, but her work was amazing, watercolor, phenomenal stuff. And I kept looking at it, and people would walk by and they would literally be like, "Oh my God, it's you," blah, 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 to her. And I'm like, who is this girl? She seems so like unassuming, you know, and she's great person. I was just talking to her, and then I saw her Instagram following, and she has like 400,000 people and growing. And I was like, oh my God, you're rightfully just such a humble, great person. And she was so happy to just talk about her techniques and all that stuff. And I was just like, what do you use, blah, 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 and all this stuff. But all her stuff was original stuff, and that was what stood out. And she did really well that weekend. And I was just like, you know what, like that, there was a part of me that's always like, I knew my path the path I wanted to take was that eventually I would do original stuff. After seeing another example, you guys with Casting Tonk and all your other books as well, Greg, noticed like all the original stuff. I was like, man, I gotta work towards that. But I know that in a business aspect with a convention life, you have to have a couple fan art stuff if you're not already established or have a lot of prints, just to gain notice.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question then. I agree with you.
Okay.
Although I didn't always.
Yeah.
Right? Like
I think I heard that
I started my sort of convention dynamically opposed to the idea of fan art. And I wouldn't, I just didn't
Just a sidebar here. My very first time I met Greg, he proceeded to buy my Optimus Prime fan art and tell me how great it was.
It was good. Yeah, it was good.
And yeah.
Yeah.
That was before I was on your radar. But
yeah. But see, here's the thing about that. Appreciating somebody's craft, right? Which is what I appreciated about it. And when I buy other people's fan art, I'm appreciating their craft. What I'm hoping for is that the realization that you just had, right? Or just shared rather, because it seems like you've had it for a while, that your own original voice is the voice that you should be sharing. That's what I'm hoping for.
The means to an end.
It's that it's a means to an end.
Definitely.
And what I feel that is, if you are wanting to do your own stuff and all you do is ape other people's styles, when you do your own stuff, would you rather buy, like, let's say you do, I'll just, an artist I really like, Jay Lee, his stuff is amazing. If you copy Jay Lee's style and you do a whole bunch of fan art, people will know that, you really are just aping someone else's style.
Right.
And when you then try to transfer his style onto your idea, people will just see the original artist's work and an idea that maybe is good, but you're just you're just borrowing these authorities without coming up with your own stuff. Whereas if you have an original style, your original way to compose your images, and your work stands out beyond the fan art, beyond the character, definitely you should make the leap and do your own work, because the people are buying it because it's so different.
Right.
They'll buy it no matter what the content is.
Yeah, for sure. You kind of notice, at least for me, when you walk around Artist Alley and you do so many conventions, certain artists only stand out now, at least for me. And that's not a knock on anyone else. That's just they're either still trying to find their voice, or they are because they're stemming from the same root, as I mentioned before. They're copying or trying to emulate the same kind of artists, and so they kind of all blend together. So when I kind of found my own voice more and more, I knew I had to find my own artistic voice before I could make that kind of step into the original creation direction first, because like I said earlier, it was literally me just trying to copy Justin to a very strong degree. I was like, oh, I gotta, he's doing something and it's real cool, so I'm gonna do that too, or try to. And as I found more and more my own voice, it's kind of been that.
Attention, citizens!
Like I noticed in New York, not exactly this year, but last year, New York is a juried Artist Alley. So somebody at New York is looking at all the artists applying and saying, like, I want these guys in. And from my perspective, walking through the Artist Alley, almost everybody came from a background heavy DC and Marvel influence. And it was so boring for me because these guys were incredibly talented, but nobody seemed to have a unique style. They were all drawing the same way.
Now, comic lovers would probably take issue with this.
But that's just me. I like style like trumps, I guess. Not
the IP,
skill.
really, right?
Or like just innate skill, I guess.
Yeah, well, yeah, skills. You definitely need skill, but like
skilled, yeah.
if that's the thing, they didn't have their own voices. They'd been trained to draw for this purpose, and they never had to find their own voice because this is the way you did it. So is that like a new thing? Kind of like 10 years ago, you needed to draw like that if you wanted to go anywhere. Right, now, it's all about your own style and standing out.
Yeah, I wonder, is there, be interesting to get some graphic designers on here and talk about the difference between commercial art now versus 5 or 6 years ago. I'd like to see if that change is something that's happening.
I guess that's it.
Widespread.
They were being trained to draw commercially. Like you have to draw like these other guys if you want to work with us, if you want to have a career.
And traditionally there was a style guide. You'd be if you worked for Marvel and DC, you were presented with a style guide. You have to draw Wolverine's head this way, and you have to draw his claws this way. And what's interesting about that is guys like McFarlane that didn't follow the guide
are the ones that
ended up being the superstars.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
They kind of defined what was to come, right, if anything. And I was going to make a point. Never mind. I kind of forgot it. But
okay, well, on that forgotten point, we are going to end off Super Pulp Science.
Cool.
Edreen, it's been awesome having you on the podcast, sharing your
Thank you for having me,
sharing your journey.
Yeah, for sure.
Anytime. And I would like to encourage everybody to join the fight and make comics.